Welcome to another interview for Millionairess magazine and the Millionairess movement. I'm Amanda Jane Clarkson, Editor-in-Chief, and today I am very much looking forward to interviewing lovely Jana Webb, who has an incredible story that will truly inspire each of you. A lifelong athlete, Jana is on a mission to share her unique perspective of fitness and health with the world. She is a mum, founder and CEO of Joga, a unique blend of yoga and sport that has revolutionized how people, including elite athletes, strengthen their mind and their bodies. Joga was fueled by Jana's personal journey of rehabilitation after a car crash left her severely injured. Through her inspirational talks, she shows people how to leverage adversity, resiliency, and vulnerability to empower themselves and enhance their performance both at home and at work. Before this chapter of Jana's life, she was a successful television host and advertising executive. Since then, she has worked with elite athletes from across North America, including Olympians and players from the NHL, NFL, MLB, NBA and CFL, helping them to enhance their performance and excel at their sport. Joga has grown to having more than 350, possibly more by now, Joga coaches around the globe, and Jana is currently building her first Joga house in Toronto with more locations to come. Wow, what an introduction. Welcome, Jana. We so appreciate you and the wisdom that you're about. Isn't that a gorgeous introduction?
Thank
wow.
you.
What a life for such a young, inspirational woman. And I really, again, appreciate you sharing your wisdom with the Millionairess followers. People are very, very excited to hear about stories from women like yourself. So, Jana, why don't you tell us about your story and how did your journey of where you began to where you are now, how did this all unfold?
Yeah, so there was actually 2 car accidents, which is kind of crazy, but you know, I do this talk called Nothing is an Accident because it just has played out in my life that this is my path. And so I was an athlete growing up, and early on in my life, I was in a fender bender, I'll call that now. And at the time, I was just managing some chronic pain. So I was told to go to yoga to manage this shoulder injury. I was your typical athlete in a yoga class. So being competitive, being coached my whole life, I just did, you know, what I was told to do. It was hot yoga, so I muscled my way into positions that I had no business being in. And I ended up hurting myself severely from doing yoga, but I kept going back. I always say it was like a bad relationship. There was parts of it that were really good that kept me going back, but there was parts that just were not good for me. Yep. But that's what made me curious. I was like, why isn't there anything out there for bodies like mine or minds like mine who might interpret information differently? And I became curious and just started to look for yoga programs that adhered to my athletic body, being a tighter body, and one that needed something different in terms of like how we interpret information. Couldn't find anything. I ended up moving to Japan and found a style of yoga over there called Ishta Yoga, which is interesting because it translates to individualized. And there's, it's an acronym meaning the integrated science of Hatha, Tantra, and Ayurveda. So the word science really resonated with me.
Yes.
And so I did my teacher training, brought that back to Canada, and I just found my true calling. I started to train people's bodies. I started to work in a clinic with doctors and physiotherapists. And as it turns out, the owner of that clinic started to come to my classes, and he started to feel better. And he was an ex-professional football player. And he said to me, you know, I wish I had been doing this in my athletic career. That conversation led to a conversation with a professional football team. And then I was asked to go do yoga with this football team. So I'm a yes person, so I say yes.
I love it. I love your attitude.
And that first class, I mean, it was awful. It was intimidating. I walked into a field, like not a studio where there's like candles burning and incense, you know, whatever. And it was this big, you know, football stadium with 65 big dudes looking at me. I'm looking at them. I'm like, I didn't know how to manage them. I didn't know how to take control. And then the worst part was, is I tried to put their big tight bodies into yoga postures that, again, just like they had no business being in. But I have a marketing background, and it was in that moment this light bulb went off, and I was like, who's doing this? Who's bridging the gap between yoga and sport? And that's where my journey started, and the creation of Joga started, which is a whole other chapter.
You've lived a lot of life in a very short amount of time, but it sounds to me, well, it feels like to me you've truly found your calling, because even just sharing this tiny little snippet of your life so far, I can feel it come from within you, which is a really beautiful space to be in. And something that we talk about here inside Millionairess is to follow your intrinsic calling. That's what life is all about. Life is short, which leads me to this question, because you had a very well publicized car accident back in, is it October 2016, correct? Yes. Saw you faced with a broken back and such huge emotional trauma. How did you rise up from that life-altering event to be the powerhouse woman that you are today? Because I saw a little clip on that online, and wow, to even think about creating a video to send to the people that you just been with.
Yeah, and I still get emotional about it, because it leaves a mark, right? Like, I almost died, and in that moment, I'll never forget that moment. I was in Dominican training professional baseball players. So I was there out of passion, doing my work, and I was on my way home, and I was so excited because I'm a single mom. I have my boy at home, and getting anxious to get home. And I just remember looking up, and I saw this cement truck coming straight on towards us. And I was like, this is it. Like, this is my moment. And his face just came into, that's all I could see was his face. And then when I woke up and I was breathing, and I was like, okay, I'm alive. Like, it's all these steps when you're in that traumatic situation that are so highlighted for me. So first I was alive, and then I realized I was very injured. It's not like this accident happened in a first world country, right? This accident happened in the middle of nowhere in a third world country. So even that piece was traumatizing. There's no 911. There's no handsome fireman that shows up to which is ironic, because now my boyfriend is a firefighter. So everything comes.
Your attitude is golden. Where are the good looking guys? Over here. I love it.
Like, reflecting back, right? But, it was, I really say I ended up I didn't even know how injured I was. I was just alive. And then I ended up getting air ambulance back to Canada. And I will say, it was when my son came to visit me in the hospital, that's when everything changed for me, because I'm his world. And when he saw his mom broken, the look on his face, I was like, I got to show him that mom's good, And so the next day he was coming at 11 a.m. And I said to the nurse, I was like, no matter what, I have to show William that I can walk. And so I hadn't even sat up at that point, because my back was broken. And so
in 3 places, correct?
Yeah. And I just but different philosophies, because in Dominican, they're like, just lie in a back brace and don't move. Yeah. But in North America, the rehab, it's different philosophies and rehab. So they were encouraging me to move. Anyways, I got on that walker, and I just pretended, I put all my weight, and I just took baby steps and got him to video it. And then from that day moving forward, I was like, I just walked. So I'm going to keep walking, and I just kept walking. And I continued. It was weird timing, because at the same time as the accident, the show had just launched, The Housewives. Yeah. So I did that TV show, the Toronto Housewives. So everybody thought I was good, but I'm like, no, it all happened before my car accident. And I had just signed my lease for my Joga house that I was building. So wow. I literally built my Joga studio from my hospital bed. I literally worked with my designer, and the whole thing is crazy. And to think back now, how did I do this and how did I get through it? One, I think I just didn't have an option. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a single mom. There was no other way than to move forward. So I just did.
For what I'm getting from this story, it's so heartfelt. And even though we always can find a bright side, what I feel from this story is that you had a big enough reason. Will, your son, was your big enough reason, and this is part of the entrepreneurial journey. So many times along the way, we want to quit. I've had 14 businesses myself, and it's tough. And you have such a strong constitution. And would you say that will was your big reason why you just had to get back up no matter what and just keep moving forward?
Yeah, I always say he's my will, like my will for
Oh,
everything.
it's beautiful. I love the name.
Yeah, it just, and you don't know, I don't think until you're really faced with true adversity. I
Yeah.
don't know if we know our true character and our true strength until we're faced with it, because, it does require to dig deep, and it does require to get gritty and resilient and persevere, which are all traits of an entrepreneur.
Yes.
But when you're faced with something that's out of your control, I find that that's when you unveil true character, right? And who you really are when things get really tough.
And I can imagine, Jana, laying in that hospital bed and being there, you would have had moments that you felt so alone and, by yourself. And, it's really, a lot of people don't understand. A lot of people don't even like to be by themselves and have those moments where they've really got to think about their future, ask themselves the tough questions, not only as an entrepreneur, but in your case, a mom, and then facing the future, building your first Joga house from the hospital bed. I mean, that would have not been easy.
No, and I think I say that now, being that I work with professional athletes, and when they're injured, I understand and have so much more compassion for what that means, because when you use your body for a living and that's taken away from you, it requires a whole different set of mental skills to get through, because you're not able to rely on your body that you're used to relying on. And so that piece for me was interesting. And then, and not knowing how I was going to come out on the other side of this. I mean, just financially, emotionally, physically, I went through depression. I went through all the things. And then I just wanted to feel myself again, because later then I got diagnosed with a brain injury and a tear in my brain. And so, just even in terms of my personality, my memory, I couldn't remember who anybody was. Everyone was saying hi to me and asking to take my picture, and I couldn't understand why. I forgot I was on a TV show. Like, it was like the weirdest thing. And so then I started to get social anxiety. I didn't want to leave or go to big events because I couldn't remember how everybody knew me. Were they a client? Have I had all these things. So
Wow, you would have felt like you had a lot of expectation on you at that time, and you're probably thinking, I just want to get well. I just want to be good for Will and get back to who I am. And so to overcome those moments, I can't imagine, because I've not been in your shoes. I've been in some dark places myself as an entrepreneur and in life sort of situations. But when you'd wake up of a morning and you'd realize where you were laying, and, I've guessed you'll spend a bit of time in hospital, did you work on your mindset? And, that leads me, how did you strengthen your mindset as well as your body in that time?
Yeah, great question. So for the first bit, I didn't do that. I started to I binge watched this TV show on Netflix, the one with the dead people that come back alive and they eat each other and they kill the Walking Dead, or whatever that's called. And I binged watched that whole series, seven, and then I was like, this is not good for me. I was like, I got to get out of this. And I had a little conversation with myself, because the days were long, right? Because you're by yourself. My family is a 5-hour plane ride away from where I live. So it really was just my son and I. And so, I laugh at that now, because that was the worst thing I could have watched. It was so dark. And
Exactly.
I have a big meditation background. And so, I leaned on my meditations, and I've been doing Anthony Robbins and these types of things since I was 17 years old. And so I leaned on my past experiences and the people in my world who I've relied on in my life to push me forward and to build my business and to think, to manifest, and all of the things that we know as entrepreneurs that we need to do. And so I went back there and I started to meditate on just being well and feeling good enough to get through a morning, and then making a milestone for that morning. So giving myself goals, like going downstairs and going to weird things, to then walking down to the end of the street to get a coffee by myself, to then getting a coffee and sitting with friends and having positive conversations, to they sound very minimal, but it was just getting me moving and getting me out of the house and getting me back into the world, right? And that was my first step.
This is beautiful, a story that you're sharing with us, Jana, because even in the economic state that we're living in now, a lot of people, even though they may not have been in your situation, are feeling these dark days, are feeling these dark moments. And what you're sharing here is relevant for the everyday person who feels that, the world has changed to the point that they can't get through this problem that we're facing right now with the global state. But what you're sharing here is that you needed to learn, and you did learn, how to pivot your life, how to pivot your day, pivot your thinking, and lean in on that personal development that you've clearly done a lot of. And that leads me to this beautiful question here, because I believe you've said you have no tolerance for those not taking accountability for their body. Would you love to go a deep dive into that for us and help us understand that? Because I'm with you the whole way when it comes to personal empowerment, taking care of the body, but I'd love to hear your take on it.
Thank you. So I guess this stems back to the actual car accident, and why I believe I'm walking today is since I was 12 years old, I've been an athlete. I've been working out. I've been keeping my body strong.
Yeah.
And so I truly believe that when I was hit by that cement truck, that I intrinsically stabilized my spine. And that is why I'm walking today and why I was able to recover. And so when I say I hold people accountable, I take my job very seriously, and I take people's ability to be able to move and breathe very seriously. And now, since my accident, because I have such limited hours in the day that I actually feel good, I'm very specific on who I work with. And if I am working with you, you better believe that I'm going to make you accountable to be the best, strongest person you can be mentally, physically, and emotionally. Because being in my own experience, I know now that everybody will be faced, if not with adversity, at some point in their life. So all we can do is, I say, prepare for battle, right? Prepare your body and your mind to be strong. So when it does happen, you are able to move past it, right? And be resilient. It's, the opposite of that is to not be prepared, and then you're left with no tools, right, on how to move forward. So I'm very much I'm pretty bossy these days when I work with people. I'm like, be accountable for your body, be grateful. Yeah, but it's true, right? Like, it's, this is our tool, this is our gift. And if we don't use it, we don't take it seriously, then sometimes, you get the little whisper, the little tap, and then the big, moment, right? And so, my voice is to obviously, inspire people to be strong, but also to remind them that, you need to listen, and you need to be very aware of yourself and what you are doing every day.
Yeah, and this is a very important message that you're sharing here, Jana. Many years ago, I was a personal trainer for years, and I'm with you in that. I'm very much into, health and well-being is my number one value, because without the body, and this is where entrepreneurs often go wrong, and I'd love to hear your take on this. They want to have a business, they want to get gorgeously rewarded for their business, make money, live the lifestyle. But along the way, they just give up on their temple, what I call the temple, and think that, I'll get the money first, I'll get the success first, then I'll come back to taking care of the body. But what they don't understand is the body's crumbling in the meantime. And, what would you say about that for entrepreneurial women listening to this incredible interview, that if they have forgotten to take care of their temple, or they're too busy, got the kids, got this, got that, the whole excuse-itis that I like to call it? What would you say?
Well, when I'm teaching, I always say, after somebody has done a class with me, I take this moment where the first one is just to be grateful, right? That you have this strength, you had the choice to wake up and move and breathe today. And the second thing that I encourage my clients to think about is, when you take care of yourself, you're able to take care of everything else in your life better, right? And so how you take care of your business, your kids, your home, etc., is a reflection of how you take care of yourself. And so I say to moms and entrepreneurs, because we're wearing hats, right? Like 12 different hats in a day, that we can wear those hats better when we take care of ourselves first, and to never feel guilty for it, because moms have this weird thing with mom guilt and, time guilt and guilty. And I was like, stop. Like, the most important thing is to take care of yourself. And then I say, people always use their health to get their wealth, right? And then their wealth to get their health, which is completely backwards. You know, we should be taking care of ourselves the entire time. So when you reach that benchmark or those goals, you're able to enjoy it. There's no point in making, you know, a couple $1,000,000 if you aren't healthy to enjoy it with your family and those who you love.
Well, you know, we have a saying here at Millionairess that, you know, if we band together, you know, global leaders like yourself, we band together to help elevate self-worth, net worth, and life worth, because everything is interconnected.
Mhm.
And, you know, I have a belief that if you take care of self first, self-love, then everything elevates along the way. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, you know, I was talking about mind and body coherence, you know, and this then becomes a reflection of your state of being and your personality and your character. And so and then I always impose this idea that if you become aware of your subconscious, then it's no longer subconscious, it's now conscious. So you can actually make change. So if you're aware of something, again, you become accountable to make a shift or a change, right? If you don't, then I feel like you're a coward, because it's you can like have your subconscious thoughts and blame your life on subconscious activity, but as soon as you become aware of them, it's conscious, you know about it.
I love it. I love it. She cracks the whip. And, you know, you're so aligned with our message. And this is it, you know, gone are the days where people don't understand a bit about personal development. Gone are the days where we can blame our past, blame our parents, blame the government. You know, it's getting tired now. And I think it's time that, you know, we each woke up and took responsibility, because it's not that difficult. You know, it's simplistic and we've got to work at it, but it's a choice, isn't it?
Yeah, and you know, I always say I'm no different than anybody else, right? I was born, you know, I'm born, thank God, healthy. I've got a brain and arms and legs and a heart, and you know, so really, there's no difference between any of us, but it's just having, you know, the idea of, I think, clarity, right, of what you want your life to feel like and look like. And once you have clarity, it makes it really easy to make choices in your life, and then those choices lean into, you know, your experiences. And I think life is all about amazing experiences and surrounding yourself with vibrant people. I'm really choosy on who I let into my, you know, into my space, into my home. I surround myself with people who inspire me, who I can learn from, you know, all those things.
And it just based on what you just said there, do you also surround yourself with mentors or help you be the best version that you can be, keep you climbing that mountain of success? Do you do that sort of stuff as well?
Yeah, I have a few business mentors that I lean on. You know, if I, you know, let's face it, you know, I didn't go to Harvard and get an MBA. Everything that I have built has been through experience and making so many mistakes and navigating my way through them, right? To find a new way. And so, you know, there's no right way. I've just learned that every time, you know, I have failed or I've made a mistake, on the other side of it is something. So I'm confident enough now to know that those lows, you know, only mean that something better is coming. And you can only experience and realm in the excitement of those highs if you've hit those lows, right? If you're constantly up here, you don't, and if there's not as much, you know, there's not as much feeling associated with those highs.
Exactly. And you sound like a woman on a mission. You know, you've lived so much in such a short life, but I think the benefit of that is you know what you want, you know what you will and won't tolerate. Sorry, that's what happens when you do these shows from a studio. I've got the poodle standing guard at the door. Thank you. Thank you. It's like having children and animals don't mix on a set, do they?
Is it a poodle?
It's a poodle. I'm sorry.
Want some attention.
That's enough. Please sit down. Yogi, sit down. Hey, that's enough. Oh my goodness.
That's okay. This is life.
No, we're all normal, right? This is what happens in life. This is real life. Oh my God, I've gone already. Hey, that's enough.
Just looking at your nails and I'm like, how does she have such nice nails during COVID? You know, I just had to pick all of my nails off. We're left with like,
Well, girlfriend, I've got a best friend that lives around the corner, and I said,
oh, okay.
I'm on camera all this week. Could you please come and sort this out? Because we're not open here for maybe another 2 weeks, I think.
Same,
And
yeah.
so thank you for that. I'll let my girlfriend know. She's not a nail technician, but she's a great friend. That's the thing about being a woman. We go, well, how are we going to sort ourselves out?
Oh yeah, I had my hairstylist came by today and dropped off some stuff to get, we're getting there.
Oh, you look gorgeous.
Desperate measures.
And as I was saying a moment ago before we got interrupted by Yogi Bear the poodle, that you're a woman on a mission. And I love that the benefit of what you've gone through is not accepting anything that's not taking you closer to the goals and the dreams that you have for yourself, and obviously the ones that you love. Is that one of the benefits that have come from the adversity? And on top of that, you can answer this as well. You know, what would you say to other women facing adversity out there right now?
So your first question, I would say, having this moment, I guess, in my life it has to be pivotal, and life changing. You know, I almost died, and so yes, I'm coming out on the other side of it. I'm still in rehab, every single day for 2 hours a day. Like, I'm not on the other side of being healthy yet. I'm still battling. I'm still fighting, but I know I'll get there one day, and I know I'll feel myself again. But I also know I'll be a changed person. You know, and that's just, these experiences, they do change you. They have to change you, and I'm always evolving and growing. I'm grateful. The silver lining in all of this is, I used to say I have a ton of passion, but now I have compassion, and it's very different.
Yeah, I saw that.
You know, and then the other piece I would say with people that are in adversity, it's just trust. I really feel like things and people and situations, good or bad, are put in front of us to learn, to grow, to evolve. And so sometimes you just got to stare it in the face and be like, what is the lesson here? Because there's a lesson. And I feel like it'll keep showing up until the lesson is gone, until you've learned the lesson, right? And so if it is, you know, you're in a troubling situation or whatever, you know, it's time to look at it, stare it in the face and be like, okay, I got this, right? And dig deep and tell yourself that you've got it, right? And I believe that the physiology, the mind and the body work together. And when you say to yourself, I can do this, I can get through this, your body just responds to the demands of your brain.
I couldn't agree more. And, you know, I say to the women that follow, you know, we here at Millionairess work harder on ourselves than anything else in life, and our business than anything, because it matters. 80% is an inside job, and I'm love to get your thoughts on this. 80% of success is an inside job. It's just a tiny 20% that is tactic and strategy. So speaking to the entrepreneurial woman, what is your take on that particular statement there?
Well, I think, you know, the more robust we are, the more we build our own body and our own minds with a sense of security and strength, and that, you know, we can kind of be put in any environment, right? And so as long as we are robust and strong, you know, even with COVID right now, I'm like, if you create this, you know, this optimal body for yourself with strong immunity, you can go anywhere, right? And so it's the same in life. If you train yourself to be non-reactive and, you know, practice kindness and, you know, do the best that you can every day, and these things we hear about, if you just create this ecosystem for yourself, that 20% that lives outside of us, it doesn't impact our energy centers, right? And so I really think, you know, and I'm learning this. I do the work every single day. You know, I wake up and I set intention, and I make, you know, I want my day to feel a certain way. And, you know, if you're not doing that work, then maybe there's an opportunity to start doing that work, right? And if that sounds, I always say to people, if that sounds like, if meditation, for example, scares you, like the word, because people think it's like going to India and sitting cross-legged and sitting on the top of a mountain for a day. We don't have time for that, right? We have we have to, you know, meditation is just becoming aware of, right? So become aware of your thoughts, become aware of your reactions, become aware of your actions, and awareness then lends to change, right? Because once we are aware of what we are and who we are and how we act and how we feel, then you can kind of gauge for yourself, you know, what you want to do with those things that you learn about yourself.
It's so crucial what you just shared there, Jana. You know, we have a saying that, and I get my women to print it out and stick it all over their house, and it says, "Is what I am focusing on and doing right now taking me closer or further away from my goals and dreams?" Because I believe that if we don't catch ourselves constantly, we get that momentum. You get in a, you know, you get stuck on something like, you know, what's going on outside that we cannot control, and you get on this momentum, and before you know it, 3 or 4 hours is gone and you've done nothing conducive to success. You've gone downward in your feelings, in your emotions, and your vibration. You know, what do you do to keep yourself up, or how do you catch yourself if you're having a moment, which we all do because we're all human, right? There's no one side of life.
Yeah.
So what do you do to catch yourself when you're in that downward spiral?
Yeah, again, it's just being aware. You know, I did a TED talk on finding the me in social media and how social media like impacts our success and, you know, our thoughts and how it interrupts our creative cycle, etc. And so, first of all, when I'm working, I don't have my phone anywhere near me because that's a distraction, right?
Yes.
Again, just creating an environment to be focused, I think, is really important. And then every day I make a list. I've learned to do that more because of my brain injury. I couldn't remember things for a long time. So I've become very good at making lists and writing things down and, you know, being very critical in my day because I have to, because that's how I've learned to function over the last 3.5 years. And so it's almost like I'm overly organized now. But again, that helps me stay on track and stay on focus. And every 15 minutes, like in my day, I have I book my calendar in 15-minute slots because that's, you know, I feel like we can do so much in 15 minutes. So I try to stick to that. I also only give people, you know, that 15 minutes. If it's like, oh, if they want a meeting or whatever, it's like, okay, small windows, right, to begin with until you learn what somebody, I find in the position that I'm in right now, I have a lot of energy zappers, you know, and so, you know, you have to understand what that means to you and how much time you want to spend on that. Because it's hard, right? Like when you're in a position like mine to always be motivating and inspiring, you know, your gas tank also gets empty. And so you have to find ways to fill your own gas tank up. Which I do. You know, I try not to work one full day a week. I know that sounds crazy, but for me, just one day off is
I'm with you.
yeah. And I have one day off and I'm like, I can't wait to start working again because work doesn't feel like work to me. Like it really doesn't. Work has never felt like work to me. So
It's addictive when you're living your calling, or we say, you know, turn your vocation into your vacation. You know, it doesn't feel like work for me. It's 24/7. This is a studio built in our home where we run a TV show and all sorts of things
oh
for
wow.
millionaires. Oh, I love, that's why the poodle's here. You know, I'm probably coming from my athletic days as well and my personal training days is every moment, because you're right, as a leader, especially when you're starting to elevate self-worth, net worth and life worth, and people are watching you, they want to grab your coattails and they want you to drag them up the mountain sometimes. And so I've gone through, and I'd love to hear your version of this, you know, as an entrepreneur, sometimes you've got to leave people behind. It's not that you don't like the people, they're not great people, but you know they're not conducive to your success. So how do you deal with those types of people? We call them pullers down here in Australia.
Pullers. I'm gonna change my wording. I'm gonna call them pullers.
You
Yeah,
go.
I've just learned to cut ties, and half of it for me, I guess this was the lesson for me going through my rehab, was just my health issues. Like I just didn't. I only had time to focus on myself and my son, and so, you know, that was, I had a quicker head start to doing this, but and so I've learned to, you know, just cut people off that don't bring me up or I can't learn from, or who are energy zappers, or, you know, I don't enjoy being around, you know. And I think, and this comes with age as well, I used to be a people pleaser. I'm a people pleaser by nature. I want everyone to feel good. I want everyone to like me. But as I've gotten older and since I've had health issues, I'm just kind of like, you know, I don't care. I just don't, and I can't, because I just don't have the energy to do that. So yeah.
I love
Yeah.
what you
And
just said then, because that's an entrepreneur. We cannot please everyone. And this is where a lot of women struggle with being an entrepreneur. They want everyone to like them, but in life and business, that's not reality. Life is a double-sided coin. And if you want to get to the top of your success mountain, would you agree that you can't worry about what other people think about you?
Yeah, you can't, because half the time the people that are trying to bring you down are your competitors, and they're doing that for a reason, either to mess with your mental game, or I work in a very competitive industry. So I've learned just to, my publicist always used to say to me, just keep your eyes on your mat, right? Don't worry about what everyone else is doing. And that's what I do. I do have blindfolders on. And does that make me negligent to everything that's going on around me? No, but it keeps me focused, and it keeps me in my own creative space, and it keeps me working towards what I think success is for me. Because what happens is we take the blindfolders off and we go on Instagram and we see what our competitors are doing, and we start to compare, and then we worry about what, it's this bad cycle. So I don't concern myself with what anybody else is doing. I surround myself with people who inspire me, and my business mentors, and self-discovery and all of those things. But in terms of my lane and business, I don't concern myself with what anybody else is doing, because this is my path. And I think that's a good note for entrepreneurs. Like I feel like real successful businesses are built through authenticity. And the only way to be authentic is if it's yours, right? If this wasn't mine, if I didn't create Yoga, and if I didn't go through all these things, that this story wouldn't be mine, right? And my passion wouldn't be mine. And so, and how I execute my business strategies wouldn't be mine. Like they come from my brain. So I think it's important as an entrepreneur, stay in your lane, stay focused on what you're doing, and don't worry about what anyone else is doing.
For all the women reading this and watching this, I hope you're taking notes. This is pure gold. It comes from wisdom. And this is where I see as an entrepreneur, a lot of people out there talking, not a lot of people with results or doing. But what you're sharing here, and this is what I love about being able to have a conversation with world leaders like yourself, is that you come from a space of wisdom. And that's why I would say, listen to what Jana's saying, write this down, because as women, I know I've done it myself many, many times, looking at other people, then I self-judge, then you don't feel so good about yourself, and you're wondering if you're enough. Are you pretty enough? Are you young enough? Are you good enough? Are you intelligent enough? Because I failed everything at school except 2 subjects. I'm in your shoes here. I left school at 16 and had to work everything out through trial and error. And man, if I hit the dirt hard sometimes. And so, this is where women with social media really can come undone. So I really appreciate what you're sharing here, Jana, because you help so many other women carve out their own opportunities now in the world of sport. Now, that is a male-dominated area. Would you love to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, geez, and what a journey. It's been 15 years and that overnight success, right? So, but when I first started down this path, first of all, I was implementing this thing called yoga in a very male dominant, not yoga environment. And I was a female, which at that point, there was no females in locker rooms. There was no female coaches, so I pioneered this with a very low probability. And I was told very early on in my career that I would never get into a locker room. I was told that my program would never be mandated by a league. And those things that were told to me is what created this fire in me to be like, watch this. Yep. Because I knew the work that I was doing would not save athletes, but could help athletes, manage their physical, emotional, mental well-being. And that this wellness modality was missing in sport, right? Yeah. And this, I learned from being an athlete. My brothers were both athletes, and I saw what happened to them in terms of like mental abuse, etc. And I was like, if all athletes went through what my brothers went through, then I've got some due diligence here. And so that's what kept me going. And the hurdles that I've had to go over, the no's, the door slamming, the phone hanging up, it has not been easy, because getting into pro sports as a man is challenging. Like, you've got to be awesome. You have got to be at the top of your game to work with professional athletes. And so then to be at the top of your game and be a female and have a program that no one's ever heard of before, it was like every obstacle was in the way, right?
Yeah,
and so
everything. Yeah.
yeah, and how, I tell these stories in my trainings on, how I got the athletes. Like, at one point I'm like, I'm a stalker. I literally like sit in a hotel lobby and I find athletes and I go and talk to them, or I find where the general managers are going to be. I go to conferences, like, it's taking those risks and, feeling scared and being like, just go over and talk to that person, give them your elevator pitch. Right. And that's that intuition piece that you were talking about. It's like, I know I need to do this right now. And you have a moment, right? You can either act on it or not. And more times than not, when you act on it, right, something good comes from you creating that situation for yourself, right? But those situations wouldn't have happened if I didn't take those steps and I didn't challenge myself, and if I wasn't brave, and if I didn't have courage. So
what an incredible story. I mean, to get the phone slammed down on you, the door shut in your face, and you're entering a male-dominated world here. That cannot be easy for a young woman on a mission, and you're beautiful as well. And so that's intimidating to so many people, but what was it in you, when you got the door slammed in your face, the hang up on the phone? What is it in Jana goes, I'm not taking this?
Yeah, I guess just as much as I'm a people pleaser, I'm also like an FU person. I'm like, oh yeah, like
there it is.
Yeah, it motivates me to when somebody says I can't do something. I guess, I've learned that there's two types of motivations. You're either positively motivated or negatively motivated. And I guess I'm one of these people who's negatively motivated, meaning that when I'm challenged, that's when I rise up. And so, if things are going good or whatever, I'm kind of bored by that. And so I think for me, that doing this and being in this industry and proving to myself over and over again that I can do it is based on the pure fact that I'm trying to prove something to those people that said I couldn't do it. Yeah.
And as a result, change the way that athletes train. And, I am certainly no athlete, but I was a runner for my whole life. And I know that to even bend over and try and touch my toes, my legs were so tight, my hamstrings were so tight. And so what you've created here is a way for the very high-end athlete to have mobility and be able to use their body in a more streamlined way, which obviously must enhance their game. What are the results you're seeing from what you're teaching out there? It's incredible.
Yeah, exactly what you just said. So most people, when they hear the word yoga, their immediate reaction is, I can't touch my toes. And I was like, perfect. In yoga, we don't want you to touch your toes. Like in sport, if your hands are on the ground, you've lost the ball. So don't worry about touching your toes, right? But it's about functional mobility and how we produce body in range of motion and in three-dimensional, and how athletes move. And so we've created some phenomenal results. We teach athletes how to move with their own body weight. I always say to them, I see you in the gym deadlifting 400 pounds and your shoulders are rolled forward, you have no hip hinge, you have no mobility. I was like, what if we worked on your form, produce some hamstring mobility, produce some hip mobility, which is going to give you more depth in your deadlift, which is going to make you stronger. And so it's been able to not only create a program that's specific for how athletes move and how they understand information, but it's also the big piece of my work has been understanding the ecosystem of sport and how to parlay my program into the athlete's workout and into their mind, into the strength and conditioning, into medical, into business, like general managers. How do I sell this to them? Well, it needs to be a business decision. All they care about is the red line. So then I look at injuries and how many man games they lost to injuries and what that meant for their bank account.
Exactly.
Right? And so, again, it's understanding your audience. And I think, and this comes from learning, right? It comes from just, okay, if I want to get to this team, there's many different ways I can get there. And I'm going to talk to many different people before I get the job. And so I've had to learn all the different, places and pieces in sport to be able to position my product, to get an opportunity, just for somebody to say, okay, you can come in and give our athletes a 20-minute yoga demo. And then I know in that moment, once I get that opportunity, I've got it. I'm done. I'm done. They're done.
They're done. They're sold.
Yeah. They're sold because I say, like, if somebody wants like a big presentation or a PowerPoint, I'm like, nope, I can give you all the information, but they're just words. Like, athletes are kinetic people. They need to feel this program in their body. And I know once they feel it, they'll be like, what, where the heck has this been my whole career?
You are a standout leader, and what you're going through here, I don't even know if you realize that you're soulful serving, as we like to say, or soulful selling, and you're fixing a problem. And this is what we teach inside Millionairess: solve problems for people, and you'll never be out of work. You'll never have that income stream dry up. And what I love about chatting with you, Jana, is that you've got it in spades. I don't even know if you realize, but you're selling yourself the whole way, just constantly tapping into the problem. Where can I fix it? Understanding that it is a business. And this is what an entrepreneur must do, is not only take their product to the market, because so many people fall in love with their product and they forget who they're serving. And you've just covered something that is so impactful. Again, what you're sharing today is truly, truly incredible. I so appreciate it. My question from that is, how do you feel when you actually see the people that you train, the athletes, world-class athletes, do your yoga training, take on everything that you teach them, and then they go out and play a better game? How does that feel for you?
Yeah, I guess that's what keeps me going is that moment, right? And well, there's three kind of moments that all this actually happened last week for me, and I was like, this is the dream. And I'll articulate what that was. So when COVID happened, we used to do all of our trainings in person, and so again, I had to pivot, right? Like, my business was all service related, and so we changed gears quickly. We got our curriculum up and online within 72 hours, and we launched our very first online training. We just finished our second one, which sold out, which is phenomenal. And in that training, the reason for me it was so successful is our curriculum. We recruit, physiotherapists, ATs, strength and conditioning coaches, yoga experts, and Pilates massage therapists, and we teach them our system and hopefully open the pathway for them to work in sport. The first question we ask is, are you passionate about working with sport and athletes? If the answer is yes, then we're like, this is kind of a gateway for you to get into sport. And so then they come into the curriculum, and once they're there, we go through a very intensive training process. But last week in our training program, we had a head of performance for an NBA team take the training, and his physiotherapist. Hosting one of my lectures was an NFL head trainer who is a yoga coach as well. And then the person that was demoing the program is an NHL player that's been doing yoga for 2 years. So I was like, here I am with this program. I've got somebody from every league and every different, minutia of my business, right? With all of these new coaches online, just like, oh my gosh, this is the real deal, and we are claiming to be the governing body of yoga and sport. And I was like, that just showcased it for me. I was like, we've got the practitioner, right? We've got the coach that's doing the lectures and my training. And then we have the head of performance for an NBA team wanting to learn from me, right? Which I was like,
goosebumps.
And then after the training, me getting messages besides like what my athlete testimonials are. One of my coaches is like, after doing yoga for 4 months, I canceled my hip surgery. Another coach, Jana, I slept for the first time in 4 months. Jana, like, for me, whenever I get a message, I take the time to answer it, because those things that make people feel better is why I do what I do. That's what gets me.
Soul-filled work.
Yeah.
Soul-filled work. And for you ladies listening to this, watching this, right, reading this is the entrepreneurial spirit. This is the journey you want to be on. A business that is right for you, things that a business that you are called to do, that you just love. And I love listening to you just talk about it, because it's just coming out of you, it's oozing out of you that you truly love what you do, and you really do care about the results your customers are getting from what you share.
Yeah. And to even take, and then as you were saying that, I was like, and then when one of my coaches gets a job in pro sports, right? Like, that changes their whole trajectory, and
Yes.
knowing how hard I've had to fight to get respected in sport, to then allow or open up another opportunity for another woman in sport. Like, that is I have goosebumps because that changes their career trajectory, right? And they're able to establish themselves in a different way on a different platform.
Jana, do you believe right now in the environment that we're living in, there has probably never been a better, more smarter time for the woman to say, you know, I'm stepping into my best self. I'm stepping into being an entrepreneur. I'm stepping into getting out there serving people, because you have so many women, you've impacted so many women's lives. What would you say to the woman listening to this, reading this? If you're sitting there thinking, oh, will I take the move? Will I jump into being an entrepreneur? You know, what would you say to her today?
I would just say do it. And with no idea what you're doing, just do it. Like the first step is just trying, right? And I think sometimes if you are so critical and analytical and you've like, I had no business plan when I started. And this company was all just built after like, okay, I'm a yoga teacher. Oh, athletes need yoga. Oh, they can't do yoga. Okay, I'll create yoga. Oh, yoga. Oh, it works. Okay, now everybody wants yoga. Oh, I need more yoga teachers. Okay, I'll create a curriculum. Oh, now I have 400 yoga coaches. Oh my God, I need to teach them how to be business people. They don't even know how to talk to people. Okay, I got to teach them to now having like this whole platform where all of these things have just happened. I'm reacting to the momentum and what I'm building. I had no plan. There was no business plan set out in front of me. I just had this passion. And so I would say whatever that little thing is in your belly, just take a step, just get a website, start, get a few customers, right?
I love what you said then. You just morphed into it. And so this is what most people go, they look at the big elephant and they go, oh my God, I can't swallow the big elephant. Chunk it down to bite sizes, organize the knowledge, organize the information, and just move one step at a time. We have a saying here, if you turn your life compass by just 1 degree, in time, your life ship will turn around. And, not to be frightened, just step in. And that's what you've done. You've morphed your way there. And you've had a lot of fun along the way, as well as adversity, by the sounds of it.
Great time. I've created the life that I want. I travel, I train athletes, I go to amazing events, I do awesome charity stuff. I get to empower other women and continue. Like before I had this meeting with you, here I was, and not doing all the things that are glamorous and shiny, right? Here, I was sitting here writing programming, writing like the minutia of my program and what it means for movement and sport and all these like nerdy things. Like I do all of that too, right? But it's, it's doing all of the things, right? And when you have this big goal of where you're going, so I'm like, you don't need to map it out. You just have to know where you're going. And I'm a big law of attraction person. I watch, I read, I practice, and I totally believe in the magnetic energy that we create for ourselves, and that we attract things in our life when we're very focused on what it is that we want. And I'm living case of it. And I feel like people who believe this are as well. And that, some people are like, oh, the law of attraction. I was like, just try it. Surprise yourself. Like, just like sit there for a day and think about something, and then it happens, and then they buy in, right? They buy into themselves.
Exactly. And gone are the days where you can say that's woo-woo. What we think about, we attract. What we think about, we become. And I say this entrepreneurial journey is not about what you get. It's about who you must become along the journey to have the successful life and the lifestyle that you want. And so based on that, Jana, do you surround yourself with a particular mastermind of other entrepreneurs along the same journey who are in harmonious thought, that keep the vibration nice and high? Do you surround yourself with people like that as well?
I do. And I ask those people a ton of questions. My dad taught me at a very early age that wise people learn from other people's mistakes. And so not only do I surround myself with people who have had success in their life, but I have I have questions that I ask them, because if I can learn from them, then that's one less thing that I have to learn a hard lesson about. I've had enough hard lessons, I'm like at the point where I'm like, okay, I'm choosing to be more wise about how I move forward.
People always say, how can I learn? How can I learn faster? Or I say, the question I'd ask is, what are the mistakes the mentor has made that I want to emulate, and I want to learn from the mistakes, because you would agree, and I've gone through some hellish days, where I thought I'm not going to be able to cope, I'm not going to be able to get through this, as I've no doubt you feel. And, the things that I've found the most valuable is to learn from other people's mistakes and, pay my way there faster than go through it myself.
Yeah. And always, even in that environment, like, know your audience, like I don't have these conversations with my hockey mom group. Like, it's different. You know what I mean? Like, you have to also know who your different friend groups are, and where to ask these questions, because you want to get the advice from the people who've been through it, right? Not people who have guessed or haven't taken action.
Yeah, well, we say don't get the information from toothless Uncle Bob who's never had a business before.
Yeah, right? Like, listen to that guy.
So, Jana, is there any other piece of information or, a piece of wisdom or something that you would love to share with all the entrepreneurial women who are watching you, who they just love your story, and one day they would love to be on that ladder of success as you are, achieving greatness and living their purpose as you are?
I would want to say, what would I want to say? A few nuggets that you don't like. I mean, I have a story. I would say, whatever your story is, like, build on that, right? Because and give value to yourself and your own story, because my story has helped me become successful and has helped me dug deep and find resilience and character. But this isn't the people that are listening, it's not their story. So I think it's really important to know your story, because when you take the time to find that story for yourself, you will find those little nuggets of things that build fire and passion. And so, because some people might be listening to this and be like, I don't even know what I'm passionate about, right? And so I think you need to take the time and really become aware of like what fuels you, because once you find this fuel and this passion, there's just, fire, fuel, passion, all those words together. It really doesn't feel like work. And then this entrepreneur, yeah, there's hard days and bad days or whatever, but like we just said, I don't want to work a day in my life. I want to live every single day of my life.
Yeah, it's beautiful what you just shared then. It's kind of like, turning your problems into opportunity. Your story becomes such an opportunity to help others achieve greatness, doesn't it?
And everybody has a story. And, when I speak now, I take the moment at the beginning, because sometimes there's 3,000 to 5,000 people in front of me. And I'm like, okay, this is great that I get to come up here and tell my story and hopefully inspire some people. But before that happens, there's this moment where I need them to go inwards, and I need them to think about their own story and their own challenges and adversity and successes, etc. So when I tell my story, there's relatability, right? Because otherwise you're just talking to like a bunch of people. And the other thing I always talk about is respect. Like, I don't know you, but I'll respect your story, right? Because your story is your own. So respect your story. Yeah.
That is absolute gold today. Last question, Jana. What would you really love to be known and remembered for?
Yeah. I want to be known. I want to build legacy. I want to be known. I always say I'm a movement architect, a movement guru.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, movement architect, movement guru. And I want to be known for, um, to be a disruptor, a woman disruptor in sport, and build a legacy and a pathway for other women who have the same passion and desire that I do to make an impact in the emotional and mental well-being of an athlete.
Well, I think that legacy is well along the way, Jana, and what you've achieved is truly inspirational. We congratulate you, and I know you haven't even scratched the surface of what is possible and what lies ahead for you on this journey. Is there anywhere that you would love our viewers and our readers? How can they find out more about you? Where can we send them?
So jogaworld.com, that's our website. Our new website is launching next Monday. So wait till next Monday. I mean, you can check it out now, but again, always evolving and growing, right? Adapting to our new world. So we've had to pivot and change. And then my Instagram, Joga Jana. That's got my link tree on there with my Fit Plan app. So I just launched an app so you can do yoga at home. There's free 7 days on there right now. All of my curriculums are on there, my online trainings, my YouTube is on there. So everything's on my link tree on my Instagram.
Absolutely fabulous. I'm going to download that link myself and give it a go. I'll let you
Perfect.
know how I go. It's going to be interesting, isn't it?
Let me know how it goes. Tag me.
I would love that. And Jana, I just want to say thank you for being part of the Millionairess movement and the Millionairess magazine, because, you know, you are an integral part of enriching lives for generations to come. And it means the world to us that you've taken this time. We know how busy you are and you've got a lot to do. However, you know, you truly will impact tens of thousands of lives. And in fact, next week we go live with our very first Millionairess TV show where we're live streaming. So we'll probably cross over to your story and share more about Jana Joga out there. So thank you for being part. And I know this is not the last time you and I'll have a conversation.
I'm coming to Australia. I want Yogi Bear.
Little chocolate poodle, I'm giving him away.
I want my nails done. I want to meet Yoga Bear, and I want to go to the beach. Come on, Amanda.
We've got it all down here. We'll have a champagne. I don't know, you probably don't drink champagne.
Oh, of course I do.
My kind of woman. But we will definitely stay in touch. Robin will be in touch today with everything, but I know this is not the last conversation, and I personally wish you all the very best. Not that you need it, and I love your attitude. Truly, truly inspirational.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, Amanda. Nice to meet you.
All the very best, and we'll stay in touch.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you, Jana. Have a lovely afternoon. Bye now.